Yes, guys, hello and welcome back to Spurs Related. I hope everyone's doing okay. Well, I'm certainly warm. I'm sure Andy is also extremely warm in this 30-degree heat, but appreciate everyone else tuning in to the channel. Today we're going to do a transfer updates video. There has been a couple different revelations in the merry-go-round that is Tottenham Hotspur transfer news, and as I just said, I am joined alongside debutant on this channel, but have been following him for a little while. It is Andy off Inside Spurs TV. Andy, how you doing, mate?
Good. Obviously, transfer season. Spurs being linked to 3,000 names every 5 minutes, so it's intense. But this is why we talk absolute nonsense online, isn't it?
It is. This is what we do. We have to sometimes work off scraps in terms of transfer updates, but there has been like I said, one or two big ones today. So we'll get into things. We'll talk about stats related to these players, and we'll also talk about we'll talk with the chat and see what you guys want. Do you want an Eze still, or do you want one of these new names that is being talked about? But if you are new to the channel, please do hit subscribe. Please do like the stream. It does help us out massively. And of course, if you're watching on repeat, whack your comments in on your thoughts on all these transfer updates. But let's get into things. Enough of the plug-in, enough of all that. It is Mohamed Kudus of West Ham United. And it was on my video yesterday, my transfer update video. But things have got a little more interesting with this transfer. Obviously, we linked with Eberiche Eze. We have been linked with him for a few weeks, haven't we, Andy? But I think Mohamed Kudus has a bit more meat to it. It has a little bit more substance, and I'll tell you why. So, yes, 2 days ago, it was said that Tottenham have genuine interest in Kudus, and he's high on the list. That's the other thing. We don't even know who's on this list. This list is a bit vague. It's not very set in stone. But today's news from Fabrizio Romero was that talks between Kudus and Tottenham on the personal terms and the project are underway. It's a positive approach, and Kudus is open to joining Spurs while talks continue with both player and the West Ham sides. But apparently there are two more clubs involved. Andy, we can probably guess who that is. I could imagine it's another two Premier League teams. What do you reckon?
I'm going to say one of them is probably Chelsea because they're interested in every other team's players. It wouldn't shock me if it's Liverpool. Obviously Diaz being linked to Bayern, it wouldn't shock me there. Arsenal, I know, obviously being linked to Eze, it wouldn't shock me if it was them, to be honest. So it's a couple of the big boys.
100%. I could see, Kudus is very much a Liverpool, but I could see, Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, like you said, linked with everyone. But Andy, I know you said you've been full on today. What's your thoughts on this news? And do you rate Mohamed Kudus as a player?
It's definitely. I think I'm speaking in the minority when I look at Twitter and I look at comments on YouTube. I'm not the biggest Kudus guy. I believe when you sort of weigh up how much the deal would cost, okay, how I always look at my attitude is I watch a lot of American sports, and it's the idea is what have you done for me recently, not what have you done for me 2 years ago. Kudus last season had a down season. Yeah, I totally get season previous had a very solid season, but that was 2 years ago. Ange had potentially the best 10-game run ever. That was ages ago. So what have you done for me recently? And, we're talking 8 goal contributions for 60+ million. It doesn't look, I think he's a good player, but I think it's overpriced. We're overspending on this, if I'm honest. But I've always had the attitude, if Thomas Frank, if this is his guy, and this is the guy that he believes can deliver what he needs to have the success that you would wish as a fan like you and I, but obviously as a club and Daniel, then this is the guy you go and get. You give the manager what he wants to succeed.
Yeah, no, absolutely, completely agree. You go with whatever the Thomas Frank project is, whatever those players are to fit into that system. But I think taking that away for a second, Andy, would you prefer the likes of a Eberiche Eze over a Kudus? It sounds like from what you've just explained there, you would, or essentially what I'm saying is, if I gave you 65 million and said you can get either player, who are you going for?
Well, anyone that knows me knows I've probably been Eze's biggest fan, so
Mm.
I can't really go back on my words. I get why people are kind of wanting Kudus. He's a super exciting player, isn't he? He can beat a man, and it's all the things that get you off your feet and off your seat as a fan. Just the end product last season is severely lacking, and look, that could come down to change of manager. Potter, after speaking to West Ham fans, they dislike Potter immensely.
Yeah.
So again, there's is there financial fair play issues, but I have to sit there and stick true to my guns. And Eze is the guy that I've truly always wanted. FA Cup winning goal, big game player, all the things that we want as Spurs fans, cup final successes. Obviously, I know we had it last season. I'm not going down that road. I'm not doing it. But Eze's the guy, in my opinion. He really is. I don't know what you think.
Yeah. No, I've been big Eze fan. Perhaps not as big as you, big of a fan as you, but yeah, I like Eze. I like the fact that he can play centrally, and I like the fact he can play sort of off the left side. But then again, versatility comes into the Thomas Frank factor, and Kudus is probably the most versatile winger in the Premier League, which we'll get into in a minute. It's got to be said, the guy can play pretty much anywhere in the front four positions. But let's talk about the output, Andy, because I know you just mentioned that you weren't happy with his output. I've gone as far back as 2018 when he was playing in the Danish Superliga, and of course he had his time at Ajax as well. As you've rightly mentioned, in the league, 8 goal contributions, 5 goals, 3 assists last season. The season before, when he joined West Ham, 8 goals, 6 assists. I believe that was under the other manager, Lopetegui. What do you make of the fact that he was pretty much getting a slightly better goals to games ratio for Ajax and the Danish club as well, which I'm not even going to try and pronounce. 11 goals in 25 games in that 2019-20 season, 11 goals and 3 assists in 30 matches. That's the sort of level of player we want. Although, yeah, like you said, it's very, very low output numbers, isn't it? But having said that, I've just removed that. Having said that, don't you think that Tottenham need that one-on-one winger that can beat a man, that can inject some pace down the flanks and actually take on a player and put it across? Because I feel like at the moment, Johnson's limited in what he does. He's brilliant at coming into the back post and tapping in, but he doesn't beat a player. Like, I can't name you the last time Brennan Johnson beat his player. Do we need that on that right-hand side? Do we need that perhaps more centrally as well?
Centrally, I love Dominic Solanke. I think actually for what he brings, the amount of graveyard shifts that brother had to do, it's impressive. Look, the hardest thing to do in football is score a goal. And if Kudus is what we herald as something amazing when he scored 5 goals last season, then what the hell do we think of Johnson, who's got 25 goal contributions last season? It's like, for me, it's what you want in the Thomas Frank system. Okay. Yeah. And the irony is, a few years ago, Son would be bloody perfect, if I'm honest. Obviously, he's a bit older, so, he's not as good as maybe was a few years ago. That's to be expected. But in my opinion, I said something yesterday, and I don't know if you sort of caught onto it. 8 goal contributions to 65 million, because it said it's excess of 60, right?
Yeah.
Could Odebear tell one of those two give you 8 goal contributions? Because if so, then it's not, for me, an upgrade. That on production. I'm not saying on stylistically and things like that. It's just not the upgrade. When you're spending that kind of big money, the irony is we've done it, minus Solanke, who's only had a season. We've done it twice before. We're to buy the guy out this last summer. And I don't know, he's playing in League One, in Tangi. And Richarlison, who's never fit. So the irony is these big money moves haven't worked at Spurs, which is just bonkers, right? But on Kudus, look, he's a good player. He's fun to watch. But when we're sitting there going, we're Champions League football next season, Daniel wants us to be finishing in the top 5 because that's what he wants. I just don't see it being a huge upgrade. It's potentially a different style player, and maybe that's what we could do with that sort of speedy left footer. But Odegaard and Tell, I think there's a player in Tell. I absolutely think there's a player in Tell, and I think he will continue to get better, especially with having a pre-season this season. Leading in, obviously not having the fact that, he played no football before joining us for weeks on end. He didn't have any sharpness, didn't have any fitness. We had 12 injuries and we're asking him to play 3 times a week playing 90 minutes ago. He's probably going to be a bit naff to start off with. I think as the season went by, you saw him when he's playing with the bigger boys and the bigger names, he really started to develop. I think his upside is crazy high, right?
I agree.
I think he can get you more than 8 goal contributions next season, hands down.
I'd like to see him getting double figures, to be honest with you, Andy. But I think Tell is clearly a player that will do much better under Thomas Frank than he did under Ange Postecoglou. And I think, as you've alluded to as well, like he did really up it at the end of the season, did show real sparks, couple goals here and there. And obviously,
mate, he was huge in that Bodo Glimt second leg.
Yeah.
So
brilliant.
And you're right, by the way, you're right. In the Thomas Frank system, I think he could flourish massively, Tell.
I agree, mate. Let's catch up on the stats and let me try and convince you why Kudus may be a good signing, because I know you're not fully convinced. So that's my aim by the end of the video, because I'm not a salesperson, but I'm going to try my best. THFC Frank saying, think Kudus could replicate what Mbuemo did, left-footed winger that carries the ball well. He said he suits the system well, in his opinion. So what about the Romero issue? Usman, we'll come on to that in just a minute. Ian Morrissey saying way overpriced for Kudus. Aaron saying Kudus is anti-Johnson, less output, but more flair and ability on the ball. Literally exact opposite type of winger to Johnson. That's kind of what I was alluding to, is that on the right-hand side, Johnson is, I know you were singing his praises, essentially. His output was fantastic last season, scoring in the Europa League final, scoring very important goals. We know that. But in terms of changing a game and doing something different off the wing, for me, Johnson is limited. Perhaps I'm talking to you, Andy, and you're a big Johnson fan, and it's going to be a bit of a debate going on in a minute.
No, on Jono, it's how he was used in Ange's system. It was, mate, get on the end of what's about to come to you. And if you do that and score, you've done your job. That was. It's the issue now, isn't it? Because like how we could sit here a couple months ago and say that player doesn't suit Ange's system. Well, Ange isn't here. This player now could suit Frank's system. Yeah. So it's now how would he be used in the Frank system, which I think is a fascinating sort of scenario to come across. It's the unknown. It's exciting.
Sure. No. Completely agree. Yeah, it is exactly what he was doing under Ange. And Frank's also saying reality is that we're going to have 48 games minimum next season. Need a number of top players in each area. Johnson and him are different, but you need different options. I think I agree. Saying think Johnson suits playing top 6 teams, Kudus teams that play a low block. And Sukil, it's been a while, brother. Hope you're doing well, mate. He's saying Kudus will be more goals created and give crosses to Solanke. Right. As I said, I want to get into a bit more insight about Kudus. Okay, so his European record, in my opinion, I know it's much more limited amount of games, but 5 goals in 9 matches for West Ham in the Europa League. 3 goals in 1 game for Ajax. I mean, nice little hat trick there, whoever that was against.
Hey, that's one hell of a record.
just.
I'm sold. I'm sold. Kudus in. I'm sold.
Yeah, hat trick a game there, mate, in 2023. But yeah, I thought I'd bring up a couple more. Now, this is what I wanted to come on to, and I know people that watch me know I love a bit of FB Ref. I don't know, Andy, if you're familiar with this site, but it for me shows a great sort of understanding of what the key attributes are for these players. And for those watching, you can clearly see, the high percentiles are the 94s and 97s for take-ons and pass completion. So in terms of his key sort of strengths, we're looking at take-ons, which is exactly what I think we're limited with in the winger department. I think Tell can beat his man, but that's more on the left side. So Kudus is stronger on the right. However, again, I'm going to show you another stat in a minute that he's much more versatile than perhaps some of you guys are thinking. And pass completion is always important. How many times last season, Andy, were we trying to play, intricate passes in the midfield, going out wide and then almost coming back and losing the ball with a silly pass? Like, a good passer is always important in a team. So, what stands out? I mean, it's quite clear what stands out on this, but like, does that convince you that you want a player that is better at take-ons? Or
for me, again, it's just, what do you do with the ball? You beat your man, brilliant. What do you do with it? And we all know, like, Kudus with the ball, like, electric. Beat his man. I don't know any defender that really can sit there and say, for 90 minutes, I can handle this guy. As much as I sit here and rate Ben Davies as God's greatest gift, all right, I don't know if even Ben Davies can deal with him, all right. Obviously, if some of you don't know who I am, I don't rate Ben Davies that well, all right. But in all honesty, it's 3 assists last season. It's an assist every 11 games. Like, you're not even the striker. Like, Bowen was playing striker for a large period of the season. Irony is Bowen not the better striker between the two of them as well? Like, the winger, sorry. Look, he's great in terms of beating a player. The pass completion, obviously, I'll leave this one up to you. Is that just, hey, knocking a ball 6 yards this way, or is that, crosses? I don't know what the breakdown of that is.
Yeah, I think we need a deeper dive on that one. It's a good question. But certainly it seems like it's all types of passing. There's no specific one. Progressive passes, however, you can see top 26 percentile, which doesn't really bode well with sort of what you're alluding to there. So technically, if you break it down further, progressive passes, that would suggest to me that a lot of these passes are perhaps safer and sideways passes. I'll give you that. Maybe you've analysed that one better than me, but I think also I'd like to bring up a couple more, and this sort of is more to do with his goal and shot creation, which is kind of what you were sort of mentioning there. What's his output like? Is his output limited? You've got take-ons 82, shots. So SCA is shot creating actions. So shot creating actions, take-ons 82, shot creating actions, shots 90, top 90 percentile. And then goal creating actions, so something that's creating a goal scoring opportunity, essentially, from shots, top 94. And then again, I've just put in those take-ons of 97 and 97. So, averaging 3 successful take-ons per game, and take-ons attempted per game, 7. So I think this is a player that if we were to sign, he's going to get fans out of their seats. I think of like go back, 10 or so years, 15 years. You look at Aaron Lennon that would explode down that wing, and he was a cult hero. Could Kudus become a player like that? Although Aaron Lennon's output wasn't ever amazing, he never scored tens of goals a season, did he? For me, I'm not comparing Aaron Lennon and Kudus completely, but I'm saying he's a quick player that can beat a man, that can make things happen. And I think, like you said there, like, does that mean he gets assists? Well, is he assisting the assist maker? Will he do things for the team that will help? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is, right, he has a shot, gets saved, someone scores a tap-in. Jared Bowen scores a tap-in, right? Or he plays a pass, Bowen has a shot, bounces off to whoever plays up attack for them, Paqueta, if he's, being smart and not being dodgy, scores, right? My thing is, then is that worth 65 million? Like,
it's a push,
I want someone, like, you beat a player, brilliant, but we could probably find a load of them in the championship for 10 mil, 15 mil.
Yeah.
If we're paying 65 mil, like with Solanke, he had 22 goal contributions in his last season at Bournemouth. We bought him for that reason, right?
Yeah.
Richie, like, 15 odd goal contributions probably most seasons at Everton when he was fit, when he's fit being the key part of that. Tanguy and Ndombele was, that's the best young midfielder in the world at the moment. He's going to be incredible. And we saw it in flashes and everyone went, oh my God, what is this freak? And then it was like, oh my God, what is this guy by the end, right? It's like, Jesus Christ, perfect for a five-a-side, just nothing more than that. it's just 65 mil. I need more. Again,
Yeah,
like I said, if this is Frank's guy, though, the conversation is right. You go and get him because that's Frank's guy.
yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying I've always thought, for example, Mbuemo's going to Man United, right? Mbuemo had 28 goal contributions last season. He's going to go for about 65 mil. We're getting a guy for 65 mil going for 8 goal contributions. And that's what I think maybe that's what I'm struggling with so much is the lack of output. Like, don't wrong,
yeah,
unbelievable with the ball. Like, he's going to do something that you have no idea what's about to happen. It's like Jeremy Doku. You watch Jeremy Doku and you go, he doesn't know what he's about to do. And that's what makes him so exciting because he's going to do some crazy stuff. Yeah. And then you watch Man City fans go, yeah, he's going to beat that man and he's going to put the world's worst cross in.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I am with you. Don't get me wrong. And I think Max is also agreeing with what you're saying in terms of not sure on 60 million, but he's also saying it's never cheap for a Premier League player. I think the prices for these players are just increasing by the year, right? You just have to go at some of the deals that have already been done, right? Is Florian Wirtz worth 120 million pounds? I would argue.
I don't know if any player's ever worth that kind of money.
Do you see what I mean, though? It is João Pedro that's just gone to Chelsea. Is he worth 50 million pounds plus add-ons? I would argue no. So
I'd be fuming if we bought João Pedro, mate. Fuming.
Yeah.
He's so naff. It's unbelievable. The guy's look. I'm sorry. We had Roberto Soldado, who's a pen merchant. This brother is the exact same. He is a pen merchant.
He does score a lot of pens, I'll be honest. As we were talking about the transfer value, I also wanted to, you almost read the script, Andy. I wanted to sort of move on to talking about the value, because obviously we're talking about 60 to 70 million pounds to be able to even agree a deal with West Ham. And maybe by tomorrow we'll be talking about potentially a deal being agreed. Although knowing Tottenham Hotspur's business, it will at least take 1 or 2 weeks longer. So as you can see, when he was starting off in that Danish league, you're talking about, going up to a 10 million pound price tag. He went to Ajax. His price skyrocketed between 2021 and 2023 as high as 40 million euros. And then he went to West Ham, where he's increased probably just through time. And, like we're saying, the price is rising naturally, inflation, 50 million at West Ham. And now you can see just at the top right there, that slight dip. So actually transfer market, obviously it's only one source of saying that he's worth about 45 million euros and his release clause is 85, I believe, 85 million pounds. So essentially we're talking about double what he's technically valued at per transfer market, per the stats. And that kind of goes with what you're saying here. Is he actually more of a 50 million pound player at most? Rather than 80, Yeah.
No, I honestly, it's such a weird perception to have. Look, it's none of our money, right? It's not, well, we may add to it, but it's not our literal money. If Kudus if it was like it's 50 million, I would be way more on board because it just feels a bit more stomachable. But 60, it's excess of 60. It's not even going to be 60 because you then also, even if it was bang on 60, you add in the agent fees, you add in the signing on fees. This is like a 75, nearly 80 million pound deal as well. I can't wrap my head around it, because I'm sitting there going, there's Eze out in Crystal Palace who apparently, we don't want to go near that one. Oh, no. Oh, don't give me the guy that's English, homegrown player. And there's a guy sitting in Holland, in Germany, the Dutchman, Xavi Simons, that I'm like, go there. Just go there. Stop. Sorry. I'm sorry.
No. It's fair enough. I get it. I think in terms of Xavi Simons, we'll come on to that in a minute because he has obviously been another link. I mean, just going back to the Kudus situation, this is where I think I might be able to get you a bit more of a on-board Kudus fan. So it goes without saying he's versatile, but I actually brought up some stats that show just how versatile he is. And this is his appearances over his career so far and in terms of where he's played in those matches. And I think just that top graph there is mind-boggling. The bigger the icon is, the more games he's played there. And if you look into the stats at the bottom, 51 matches as a centre forward, 50 as a right winger, 49 as an attacking midfielder, and 46 as a central midfielder. I think that was in his earlier days, if I'm correct. And then 19 as a left winger. So, I mean, Andy, just looking at that, that means that, you know, he could fit into left wing, right wing, central attacking midfield, or as a second striker, or as a striker in the Thomas Frank system. Do you think we need a player that can play across any of those positions?
Well, look, Spurs in January were looking for versatile. That's why they wanted Kolo Muani. The guy can play across the front three positions. That's why they wanted him, right? So it is something they're looking at. Obviously, the academy train situation with Europe and not having the full quota, that puts a bigger strain on your squads. So I get why they're trying to plug a hole with a player that can play 2 or 3 or 4, or in this situation, about 1 million positions, apparently. Obviously, look, I know these stats are, you know, there's Danish Football League, there's the Dutch League. I know it's a combination of them all. I think Spurs do want versatility. I think they look at Kulu, for example, and go, oh, he can play right wing, he can play centre mids. You know, that's why Ange always tried to say, don't look at centre mids as a 6, 8 or 10. Look at them as they can play everywhere, right? I think that was a bit of a mindset as well. It's why I think, you know, for example, we link Carl Walker-Peters because he can play both left side, he can play the right side, he's academy trained, he's free. So Daniel Levy's loving that. You know, that it's his wet dream, obviously. We know what that is. But like that's what they're trying to do because they know they're going to have limitations on the squad due to really a lack of quality that came through the academy over the last 10 years. So, you know, it's what they're trying to do to help themselves going forward. Now, the issue is when you do that, that player gets injured. He's now irrelevant that he can play 8 positions because he's not going to play, right? And Spurs need to fix in-house before they start having to go, oh, look at this, we're going to get this player and this player and this player. Because if our players just stayed, I don't know, 25% fitter of a season, we probably wouldn't have the conversations that we have nowadays, you know?
Sure. No, completely agree. Completely agree. I think there's definitely question marks over, you know, our medical team, you know, in terms of staying fit. But I think that's opening up another can of worms there. That's probably for another video. I was, you know, conscious of time. I just wanted to move over. We talked a lot about Kudus, haven't we? I wanted to bring up something I actually put onto the video yesterday. And guys, if you are enjoying the content, I've got to say, I do these transfer updates and videos pretty much every single day. So please do hit subscribe, hit like. It helps me out massively. And of course, we'll plug Andy's channel as well, which is doing great, Inside Spurs TV. I'll pop the link in to the live chat in just a moment's time. But as I said, the video I did yesterday, I brought up this slide, and essentially it says at the bottom here that at the moment, this is on Fabrizio Romano on Give Me Sport. At the moment, there's still no active negotiations for Eze. This was about, because they are still assessing all options and then deciding who the player is they want to sign. So, Andy, another talking point which could go on for half an hour, but hopefully it won't. How have Tottenham, if this is right, Fabrizio Romano, like a very credible journalist, how have we not decided which players we're going for? I'm sorry, but that for me, I nearly went off on one of my videos yesterday, and I was like, I'm doing a quick update. How can that be right? How can we not know who we're signing?
Well, maybe it's my turn to persuade you a little bit. And this is not pro Levy, so anyone thinks I'm going to be like, oh, Daniel, it's not. All right, I'm just trying to think outside the box, because that's what we do as like fans, isn't it? We always put our blinkers on. It's hard to see sometimes the bigger picture. My attitude was, it's July 1st. So, you know, we don't come back to training, for like another couple of weeks or whatever, right? Or a week or a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You got rid of a manager who probably had summer plans in place, okay?
Yeah.
Any summer plans in place that are signing players now are club signings. These aren't Thomas Frank signings, right?
Correct.
Because Thomas Frank has not met any of the players, really, other than, you know, Madison or Dragic, who've been injured and they've been in the rehab. He's not met Destiny Doggy. He's not met Pedro Porro. I know he loves Pedro Porro, and I don't blame him because I love him as well. But like, he hasn't met these guys, didn't train with these guys. Like, he needs to see what he's working with, and that's just normal, isn't it? You know, for example, a lot of Spurs fans have gone. Basuma's probably gone, right, and Richie's probably gone. But what if Thomas Frank goes, no, I love these two. These are great. Like, I actually want to keep them. Then it's like, well, these two aren't leaving then, right? So that's the mindset that I've had. It's, you got rid of a manager. The new manager's going to need to take time to see what he's got, and then we'll be active. And I genuinely think, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not panicking sitting here July 1st. If it's August 1st and we've signed one true new player, barring Tell, Danso, and Tekai.
Yeah, they don't count. They don't count.
No? Oh, Daniel, I was trying to get it for the hook there. So, other than Tekai, I think it's his name, Tekai. Apologies if it's not. If we sit here with one extra player August 1st, then yeah, hit the panic stations. Like, PSG are knocking at the door in a week's time or whatever it is. And watching that PSG team gives me the heebie-jeebies because I'm scared Pulis out of that because of them. They're so good.
Yeah.
But glass half full. I've just finished my drink, but glass half full. Frank sees the boys, makes a decision pretty quickly. Hopefully, he's kind of that kind of guy that can make a decision quickly and stick to it.
Yeah.
Is July going to be just one hell of a month?
Now, I think so. So.
Optics will tell you no, because the Spurs. But, you know, the smart, logical thinking would be, well, then, yeah, because we're going to get rid of 3, 4, 5, 6 players because we need to anyway.
Yeah.
Obviously, my king Timo Werner left yesterday. Devastated the Timo had gone. Just heartbreaking news, Timo.
He's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Turbo. Enjoy the MLS, my friend. No, it's just a joke.
He'll probably smash it there, though. Not to go off on one, but it's probably suit him perfectly. But I've got to say, building on your point about July, you know, July the 1st today, it marks the reset of like the financial fair play regulations and a new monitoring period, as they call it. Yeah. And so it gives clubs a bit more breathing room in terms of what they can do, because it's a completely new period. And, you know, spending chunks of money like Chelsea have started to do already. They'll probably sign that off in July just because, you know, if they did it last season, they'll probably get, you know, FIFA banging on their door again. I mean, Chelsea just from getting into this next round of the Club World Cup are getting £60 million. It's absolutely nuts. We need to somehow get into this competition, even though there's about 15 people attending each game. One thing I wanted to pick up on, obviously, we've talked slightly about Eze. I mean, not much more has happened on that other than apparently Arsenal are negotiating as well. So, you know, meltdown incoming if Arsenal get Eze, because let's be honest, that could happen. As I said on the video yesterday, Arsenal have made contact with Eberechi Eze's camp over the weekend, and contacts are taking place for the Palace star. But again, Fabrizio, you know, said that Tottenham remain interested. We're interested. Yeah. We're keen. We're not actually doing anything yet. But as you said, Andy, I'm not panicking yet. I'm waiting. Yeah. You know, I'm giving it a week to 2 weeks to see what we've done. You know, because if we get to that, I think we've got there's a Luton pre-season friendly in about three weeks time. We've got a couple more, haven't we, abroad? And then we've got the Super Cup, and then we've got the first game against Burnley at home. I mean, I'm just saying. I think Alistair Gold of Football London has said that basically Thomas Frank wants to make a couple of signings by that pre-season mark. We haven't got long, have we? Really? Like, I'm not panicking. Like, I'm listening to what you're saying. Like, we've got a bit of time, but it's not a lot of time. And the fact that there's sources saying we don't even really have a list, and the only link we've really had is Eze, which is a bit, and Kudus, which is a bit more meaty. Nothing's happened, has it?
We have a list. It's just, you know, like you check it twice, see who's naughty and nice kind of thing, right? So, no, Paratici is still somehow around this football club. That's a bit grey area for me. We all have been told, he has 5 positions that he's working on. He has about 10 to 15 players' names that he's working on every single deal, right? There's always stuff going on. Spurs, even though are waiting July 1st to do their business, will still be speaking to agents, right? That's what they do. Players leaving, players coming in. I with a new manager, it's always that weird thing of like, could he transform a player or two and make them feel new? And it's not me trying to say, oh, we'll try and save some money here because you never know. Oh, rainy day. It's just my thinking that he, tell Odebear, could they take a leap next season? And is that the mindset that Frank's going in with? Now, in all honesty, we do need multiple players. That's a given. We still have a threadbare squad. I mean, you've watched the channel for a little while. How much have I shouted about getting a left back in for months and years 100%. On end? Right? Yeah. And I don't care if people like Sergio Reguilon. He is not, and he should never have been the left back last season. All right. No. Should have been gone years ago. Ben Davies, we all love Ben. All right. We think he's a lovely guy. He's not my left back. All right. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. That's offended at least someone, and I am sorry. It's
just not going back quickly on Reguilon. It has to be said. Sorry, I've got to keep the lighter side of life. It was amazing to see that Reguilon was part of our squad to beat Man United, who he went on loan to. Like that was quite a nice moment.
He must have been devastated because that's who he supports, isn't it? He doesn't shut up about
yeah,
him.
Yeah. I just think it's funny. Think it's funny.
He's a whopper. He's an absolute whopper. But no, in all honesty, look, there's so much to happen. I just think give it. What's the first game? Luton, you said it's in the 20s, isn't it, of this month?
Yeah,
If by then we've not signed anyone, just panic everywhere. If it's one, it could be the big one, and you kind of go, oh, okay, all right. Well, what else what you got going on? If it's two or more, you're like, Daniel's had his beans for breakfast. So
yeah.
I'd say let's see how the chip falls for the next couple of weeks.
I agree. Yeah, just to clarify, 26th of July against Luton, 19th of July against Reading.
Huge.
I mean, we'll probably play youngsters in that one. Then 31st of July against Arsenal, which I believe is in Asia. And then against Newcastle on the 3rd, Bayern Munich on the 7th, then the cup final on the 13th of August, and then the first game against Burnley on the 16th of August. So nice and heavy, Super Cup. Then the season starts 3 days later, we're going to have a good squad. We're going to have a squad with depth. But, Andy, we haven't got too long left. I wanted to just talk about your opinion on this beautiful man, Christian Romero. And the news yesterday was that, well, surprise, surprise, Thomas Frank wants to keep Christian Romero. Because, I mean, there was obviously a possibility that Frank comes in and says, his policy is, I don't know if you've seen the interviews where he says no D-heads. At the end of the day, could you see Romero as one of them? Well, he's a bit of a, he loves the housery, let's say. Alistair Gold also confirms that reports Atletico Madrid have reached a deal for Romero are not true. Because I'm also seeing loads of different sources saying, from Spain going, Atletico Madrid are close for Romero, 60 million and all this. Just to get your opinion on Romero, Andy, because I'm not too familiar with your opinion on Romero. I guess the question is, would you sell him if the right bid came in, or do you really think Romero needs to stay at Spurs if his head's in Spurs, if that makes sense?
I'm definitely going to rival anyone for being Romero's biggest fan. He's a Rolls Royce. That's his nickname, and that's what he is. He's phenomenal. And look, injuries aside, last season, I totally get it. But I mean, he's player of the tournament in the Europa League. He is a huge reason why we had won that trophy. I mean, clean sheet in the final, clean sheet away at Bodo Glimt. We conceded one against Frankfurt, one against Bodo, and one against AZ Alkmaar. That was our knockout football.
Yeah.
And he played in every game. So, yeah, I think he's phenomenal. I've always had this attitude with Atletico. And actually, I got it from one of the subscribers who went, yeah, but if we were buying him from Atletico, they would have it as 90, 100 million. So why would we try and do a deal with Atletico for 60 to 65? Fine, throw Julian Alvarez in there afterwards and we'll do 65 million. But he is a phenomenal centre-back. He is potentially the captain next season. Son may leave, that we don't know. Hypothetical, he could.
Good point.
He's the captain. And him and Mickey are a superb combo. Does he want to play with Mickey van der Ven or does he want to play with Clement Longley? I think I'd know my answer. It would be Ben. It would be Ben Davies. No, does he want to play with Pedro Porro or Marcus Llorente, who's a right mid / centre mid? Does he want to play Destiny Doggy or whoever the left back is at Atletico? Right. It could be Andy Robertson for a while now, which, to be fair, he's all right. I'm not going to slag him.
So it's fair to say you wouldn't accept any sort of bid unless it's substantially above what he's worth.
He's got 2 years left in his contract. He's you'd say he's in the early part of his prime. He's 27?
27, yeah.
Right, okay, so that's a good guess. He's in the early part of his prime, right? Yeah. So you don't need to sell him this summer. Okay, that's another key thing here. He earns good money, so I don't think he's going to be sitting there going, "Oh my god, I'm on 150 grand a week. That's awful," right?
But could Atletico Madrid pay him 200 grand and then it's a different story, right? 50 grand more a week.
Hey, could do. And Daniel Levy would go, "That's nice. I want this amount of money," and Atletico go, "Oh, can't do that." It's kind of like, well, then what are we doing, right? No, the money has to be great. He's a World Cup winning, double Copa America winning, UEFA Europa League player of the tournament, centre-back, captain, obviously, of that starting team. Obviously, Son came off the bench. Like, I see Lenny Yoro go for 60-odd million. Fofana went for 75 million. Harry Maguire, 85 million. Not one of those names that I've just rattled off are anywhere near as good as Romero, yet we should settle for 60. I don't know about you. Like, by all means, take the reins from here, but I think that's absolute hogwash. And we wanted 150 million last summer, and now we want 60.
150 million we wanted.
That's what last summer when Real Madrid came sniffing, it was more of a Daniel Levy, like, stop it. You're not coming near him. So he's never worth 150 million. But you know what it's like? He did it to Man City over Kane. This is this way to ward them off, you know? We would have taken about, I reckon, 100 for him last summer, right?
Yeah.
There's no way he's losing 40 million worth of value in one season.
No, I agree. I just think for me, I think you've got to think about replacements. If you sell Cuti Romero, can you get a replacement within the next, what did we just discuss, 3 weeks? Would we have someone lined up? I think we're very much under the camp that we're going to be keeping him unless a substantial bid came in.
Yeah.
My question mark is the fact that we're not going to get an adequate replacement in that time. So then you have to look at the rest of the squad and you think, does a Danzo pick up and show as much quality as a Romero or even near to? And I think it's fair to say that they're different players, but actually Kevin Danso did come in and impress, in my opinion, on the limited time that he did perform. But is he a Romero? Probably not. So that's the question is, who would we get instead? Just, I know you don't want to sell him. I get your point, but would you have an adequate replacement, that we could potentially line up? Or do you think that in the squad there is enough depth in centre-back? Because we have got a lot of centre-backs now. I mean, we got to the point where Vuskovic or a Dorrington is probably going to get loaned out. We've got Kevin Danso. We've obviously got Mickey van der Ven. We have got a decent few options. Dragusin, of course. What's your thoughts on that?
You're not going to replace him. Like, he's a world-class centre-back. That's one issue, right? But I love Big Kev Danso. I think, again, like I talked to Tell, a pre-season would do him a world of good, right? He knows the Prem, which is lovely. Before even coming, he knew the Prem, which I think is a nice... It's not crucial, but it's a little bonus, right? Yeah. I think he can be good. Obviously, Radu's back probably winter time. Obviously, ACL, it'll be about winter, late autumn time, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Dorrington, I expect to go out on loan. Vuskovic, I think it'll be one of those that Frank needs to see what he's working with there, because he might go, Jesus Christ, this kid is a monster. I'd keep him. Do not, by any circumstances, let this guy leave. And you still have Ashley Phillips. Like, we always knock Ashley Phillips, but he's played, quite a considerable amount of football in the Championship. And
Blackburn and Stoke, right? Blackburn and Stoke, 2 seasons running.
Plymouth as well. Plymouth, yeah,
6 months. 6 months at one of them, 6 months at the other, and a year at the other, I believe it was.
So yeah. Last season at Stoke, 6 months at Plymouth, right? They had like double-digit clean sheets for a team that was fighting relegation. So, like that. Let's not knock Ashley Phillips because it's not a sexy name. It's not Vuskovic. Vuskovic scores all these goals. It's like, yeah, but Westerlo could not stop a leaky tap, right?
Yeah.
Defensively, though, in naff, and it could be the players around him, obviously. But look, you're not going to get that level of player back in return, right? Now, could Dancer or Vuskovic step up a gear? Absolutely. But you are banking then on these guys doing that. Whereas Romero, it's like, that's what you build your team around, that world-class level of player. How often do Spurs ever get that? Well, we had Kane and Son, and Son's a bit older, and I wouldn't deem him as world-class due to age. Romero is the one world-class player that we have. There's players in that squad that I believe will go on to be world-class in their position, but they're not there yet. Do you want to compete? Daniel said he wants to win the Premier League. He wants to win the Champions League. These are the sort of players you don't move off from because they are a player. Jesus Milton. This is a player that you build around, right? I know he's a little bit injury prone, but then isn't that a case where you could say, yeah, but we now learn from our mistakes. We rotate a bit better. We're smarter. We have quality. The idea is you need quality behind them. And Danso is, I think, mid-20s, 25? Something like that.
Put me on the spot there. I knew Romero's one. 26, Kevin Danso.
Right. So not even in his prime, right? Early part of his prime, if you want to say that. I think he's going to take a leap next season as well. And that gives me confidence that if Romero, Romero's played a bit of football recently, let's get him a weekend rest, send the absolute monster Big Kev Dancer out there, And same thing with Mickey. It's my whole thing. Get a left-sided centre-back because Mickey, none of these guys are playing 50-plus games a season. They're not. We just know they're not. So get the quality behind them and rotate, and they'll stay healthier.
No, interesting points. I think Danzo is going to surprise. Just building on what you said there, Danzo is going to surprise a few people because I feel like he's not a luxury player, but he just gets the job done. He's gritty. He's solid. And when he came on against, he came on in the Europa League final and tightened things up. I believe he came on away. I think it was either at Frankfurt or Bodo Glimt, or potentially both. Tightened things up. He comes in and almost fits into a five. And as I discussed in other videos, and I'm sure you've discussed on your channel, Andy, that Thomas Frank is going to be looking to sort of have that liquid formation where it turns from a 4-2-3-1 to maybe a 5-3-2 to maybe a 3-4-2-1, depending on what's happening in the game and what needs to change. And so Kevin Danso is great to fit into, whether it does suddenly go to a 5 at the back and you've got Van der Ven, Romero, Kevin Danso as that central unit. I mean, I think he's a great player. I've just got to say it out there. Like, I think you've hyped him up as well. I think he's a decent player.
Yeah, I'm with you. We're singing from the same hymn sheet there. And you're right. Frank loves a 5-back, 3-back into a 4-man, defensive line. I know 4-3-3 is more his bread and butter. And I think what's great is we've already got the foundations of a 4-3-3 that now he will just put his spin on it. He doesn't have to teach a 4-3-3. We already get the idea. And then you'll start to slowly see the 5-back, 3-back being integrated over time. He was at Brentford for, a long time, hence why he could build on that. It'll be slow with us at first, but we'll get it. And you're right, that I think that's exciting, and I think Big Kev Danso's in for a Big Kev season, all right?
Love it. We'll wrap things up shortly. We've got one more question I want to ask you. I know, Andy, I said it would be 40 minutes. I always run over, so
you're
it's
all
just
good.
part and parcel. Bridzy saying Danzo is a great cover for Romero. Completely agree. The last thing I wanted to talk about before, like I said, we do wrap things up. And guys, if you are watching on repeat, for some reason, these live streams get great numbers offline as well. I really do appreciate the people that do watch them back. I'll put some timestamps in to make it easier on the different talking points Andy and I just discussed. But the final talking point for the last sort of few minutes is the only department we haven't really mentioned that we really should be looking to invest in is that number 6 position. And Andy, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that because I've spoken about it quite a bit on my channel. I think you've spoken about it quite a bit on your channel. What is it that Spurs need to do in this purchase? Like, is there a particular name you're looking for? Are there a particular caliber of player that you're looking for? Because I've talked about a Paulinho who's out of favour at Bayern Munich, for example. 6'4" unit, ball winner. Decent with the ball as well, distributing, playing on the turn, solid, right? And Premier League proven. Of course, had a good couple seasons at Fulham. Is there someone you're looking for? And I'll give you 30 seconds to think about that while I quickly plug your link again in the chat, which I would hope everyone watching, the 50 or 60 of you watching on YouTube and Facebook, please do go and check out Andy's channel, Inside Spurs. Go and click on that link if you're on your mobile or on your web. Please go and click on that, and I'll get Andy to explain what's coming up on his channel after I've got his answer about the number 6.
Yeah, 6 is such an interesting one. You know, I briefly, I think, spoke about it yesterday, and there's no real. Like, I know Johan Lang works in silence. Right, that's the moniker, that's the gimmick. There's no real credible out there hey, Spurs are. That's him, right? Because there was links to Paulinho weeks ago. Angel Gomez is sort of a 6/8. We're not going to go there, obviously. He's playing for Marseille now. So there's no real, I know Hayden Hackney was the only other one, but that's also just regurgitating news from last season and the season before. We've been interested in Hayden Hackney, like Eze, for years, right? So it's not
And Paulinho.
And Paulinho, yeah. You know, we wanted him from Fulham. My only concern about Paulinho is 31 next month, isn't it? Or this month, actually. You know.
Yeah, he is slightly older. No, he's 29, Paulinho.
Is he 30 this month, or is maybe I'm
30 this month, July 9th?
I was a year too old on him. Apologies. You know,
aging him too quickly. Age gets us all. Come on.
I don't know I'm saying that. He's only 6 months older than me. I don't know why I'm getting layery about it. No, look, on Paulinho, good player. My concern, when we had Ange, I said Paulinho's not the right player because we need a guy that can cover 60 yards of space, right? And Paulinho's not going to give you that. We saw at Bayern. I think he's really struggled at Bayern because Bayern have 60, 70% possession, and then a counter-attack happens, and it's, Joshua Kimmich can get around the pitch. You know, Pavlovic can get around the pitch. Even Goretzka can get around the pitch. Paulinho's not that same level. And in a defensive lower line block, absolute mustard. He would be Conte. When we had Conte, he would have been the utmost best signing for Conte, right?
Ultimate Conte player.
Conte, him, and Skriniar, perfect.
Yeah,
neither of which.
Or Bremer.
He literally was twerking for Gleison Bremer, wasn't he? He's that Brazilian guy from Torino. I'll have that. And Romero goes, I hate this Italian guy. And everyone goes, oh, geez, all right. No, but on Pauline, it's what I struggle with. And obviously age. The other, I look at Man United at the moment, right? And I see them struggling to get off players. And Chelsea, I think, going to have this issue. They're going to struggle to get off of players because obviously, other than the big boys in Europe, Bayern Munich and what have you, they've not got the money to spend. They'll either give you the money for the wages of the player or it's the transfer, but they can't afford both, right? You think of Pierre Højbjerg. They've had to build up 12.5 million over 2 years, right? To get
crazy.
It's 12.5 million. It's Pierre Højbjerg. How expensive can this guy be in world football for a team who finishes top 2 in the French league? You know? Yeah.
It's just different, isn't it? Different in the Premier League compared to the other leagues. It's a different kettle of fish, completely.
That's why I'm with Paulinho in 2 or 3 years, he's not going to be the player that you're buying right now. And I think the other thing I take away from American sport is not only are you buying the player for what they've done, if you're giving them the 4-year deal, the idea is 4 years you expect this level. And after 2 years, he's there. You have a depreciating asset, and it's now a problem.
Great, yeah.
See Casemiro at Man United. When he came in that first season, everyone went, he's so good. And everyone goes, he's finished. He's crap. It's only a year later.
Yeah, good point.
That's why I'm struggling with Paulinho. Now, if we got Paulinho and he was 25, boy, where's the piece of paper? Where's the pen? You know, give me him. That's my mindset. You know, if Bentancur was 10% more switched on defensively, I think that's the player. But he's not.
Yeah.
So
he's not a 6, is he? Bentancur is not a 6, 100%.
No.
I think he's probably when he's had a lot of injuries, right? He's probably lost a bit of his pace, to be honest. Not to talk about it as if it's FIFA injury, but I mean, he genuinely has slowed down, right?
A bit. Obviously the ACL and he had the ankle, so I can see it being expected.
I think he's more of an 8 though. Anyway, I think he's more of a number 8 than a number 6. Personally, I think if you want a number 6 that's like this anchor man that essentially Thomas Frank will probably look to have in that midfield, I I think you've got to start looking at. I mean, I've heard Adam Wharton thrown about. I don't think we're getting him. I mean, we're just linked with half of the Palace team at this point. And let's be honest, Palace won the FA Cup last year. They're on a massive high. They're going to not really want to sell all their players, especially if they do lose Eberechi Eze. But
they'll sell Gray. That's going to happen. They will be selling Mark Gray probably.
To Liverpool, I've heard that's the latest news today.
Them or Newcastle. Newcastle have been linked to Gray as much as we've been linked to him. The thing is with that, and I've always said about Eze, if you wanted Eze, Palace are more willing to do you a deal because they haven't sold anyone. As soon as they sell a Gray, they are not going to want to do you a deal because they don't have to do you that deal anymore, right?
They got money.
They got European football this season. They got the competition that we're the winners of, right? So they're going to want to have a big season. And is this the launch pad to be in Europe more frequently? You know? So for us and the number 6 role, Wharton's going to cost 80 plus, right? It's bonkers. I struggle with the 6 role, sorry. I really struggle with it because I think watching players like Vitinha at PSG, who flopped at Wolves, who is as tall as 5'4", 5'5", and because of Rodri's injury, he's the best 6 in the world. So it's not even like you need a dominant 6. You don't need that guy who's going to destroy a midfield. You need a guy that goes, the ball's probably going to be over there in a couple of seconds. I'll just get a bit closer. And that's all he does. You know, the thing with PSG, which is why their midfield is what Ange's midfield, what he wanted it to always be, is all 3 of them can attack, but all 3 of them really want to defend as well. Like João Neves, he's a £100 million player, but the guy does not stop defending.
And running like a nutcase. Him and Vitinha.
And look, I think Lucas Bergvall is going to be an absolute bloody rock star. All right. I really do. If he's not already that now, he will be. And I look at him a bit like a Frankie de Jong, probably a little bit more athletic than a Frankie de Jong, right?
Yeah, good comparison.
Frankie plays the number 6 for Barca, right? And they play a Ange-like high line. It is, but they don't have a Mickey van der Ven, so you can get Barca because they don't have a Mickey van der Ven, and we're spoiled. We have the quickest centre half in football. I struggle with the 6 because I just don't know who's out there. You know,
I've seen Douglas again. I know we've got to wrap things up. I've seen Douglas Luiz, who used to play for Villa, knocked about as well. Again, these are all tier 3, tier 4 rumours. I'm not saying anything concrete, guys. Just always credibility on this channel. But yeah,
I've got breaking news. If you want to look at Fabrizio Romano, because Antoine Semenyo signed a new long-term deal with Bournemouth. So that's a player that we were linked to. You would expect now that is completely off the table.
Oh, goodness. Well,
so
that's one less link. That's one less player to talk about. We've got a new player to look forward to.
Get that list. Cross him off. Now we're working with a shorter list.
Yeah, we've got a list of 20 we don't know if we're going to approach now. We've got interesting and it's not
Prashi's right now shaking. He's like, I've got to find another name to put this list. It will now be Eze. He'll maybe be a bit more. I know might be an idea that we're cooling our interest a little bit. I think that might spark back up depending on how the Kudus talks goes. Obviously, it feels like Kudus is the number 1 guy. Eze, and then I can't stress enough Xavi Simons. Like,
it's got to be.
The upside of him is leaps above the other 2, right? I think you're more, what you have in Eze, and I think it's great. He's not rubbish at all whatsoever. But also Simmons might be the one that costs the most. And it's like, are you going to
get him on a loan to buy, though? Daniel Levy loves a loan to buy.
Yeah, but Leipzig have just done 18 months of loan to buys over Timo Werner. They're looking at it going, you're going to give us some bloody money this time.
Yeah,
all right?
You're taking the piss, yeah.
You're giving us some bloody money. Look, we love the fact you took 165 grand off our books for Timo, but we want some bloody money. And obviously, also with that, let's not forget what happens with Sesko. As soon as they sell Sesko, money's in the door now. They don't have the need for money as much anymore. It's what smart teams do. They get ahead of the bullet. And on Simmons, I think Sport Build have said that Newcastle were interested, and he was like, no. Apparently, it's like he doesn't want Newcastle. Right. Which, hey, I'm not going to slag off Newcastle whatsoever. They're a good quality side, but I think he probably wants a London move, and we've got Champions League football. And hey, Johan Lang likes young players. Daniel Levy likes marketable players. Both of them like obviously good players, hopefully you'd expect. Well, he is the trifecta. He's marketable because he's a La Masia PSG wonder kid who's gone to Germany and the Eredivisie and destroyed both leagues. I mean, what? Over 20 goal contributions last season in the Bundesliga as a young player. So his marketable is crazy online. Like, he's got so many followers. Like, Spurs are going, this is printing money. And he's the ability to be absolutely world class.
Yeah, 22. Sorry, just to build on again what you're saying there. 22 years old, 25 matches last season for Leipzig, 10 goals, 7 assists. It's almost a goal contribution a game, almost.
Not far off. But genuinely, like, Semenyo going off this list, right? You'd expect, because it's a new long-term deal, it's to 2030 as well, so it's a 5-year contract, right?
He's not going anywhere now, 100%.
Maybe next summer there's a gentleman's agreement sort of thing, you know. I think that's what Eze's deal is, by the way. I think Eze has a gentleman's agreement. They were going to let him go and do a better deal to make it more feasible, right?
Yeah.
I still want the money, but it's, hey, we'll accept it in smaller chunks, right? I think because of that, I think Spurs have gone, oh, that was one of the players we liked. And I don't think we were going to get him, but it was on the list. And I think it's put more pressure now. Like, if he was fourth, it puts more pressure on, let's say, Simmons, Eze, and Kudus are the top three. It now puts more pressure on them to get one of those three.
100%.
And you want players in for the next couple of weeks. Could that be the spark needed?
I sure hope so, Andy. I sure hope. We need some kind of spark. We're starving out here. We're talking about Eze every day. We're talking about...
I'll have a word. We'll do it.
We're talking about, Kudus for the last few days. We're talking about, the same links. Xavi Simmons obviously has come up. We just want a bit more concrete news. I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure next time you're on, Andy, we'll be talking about a player either, about to be signed, or, something a bit more meaty that we can chew the fat on. But I really appreciate you coming on today, mate. It has been over an hour. I did say to you 30 to 40 minutes. You can say that I'm a liar on that
Terrible.
sense. That,
awful human being. How dare you?
Honestly, for double your time. Don't invoice me anymore.
You couldn't afford me. Honestly, it's been awesome being on. Obviously, I know we've been talking a little while. It has been awesome being on. Fair play to the view as well. Like, it's an hour sitting in sweltering heat in England. Obviously, I know.
I'm sweating my head off.
Milton, it's the crack of dawn and he's getting up for work. But like for us, 7:30. Milton's at Wollongong in Australia, and I'm not telling an absolute lie because Milton will back me there. It's 7:38, right? In England, it's hot. But so fair play to you, mate. Not sitting
100%.
there and losing your marbles more than what Spurs do to us anyway, and going, we'll sign Lionel Messi on a 6-month contract, and stuff like that. So it's been good. It's been a good conversation.
No, it's been class, mate. And before I let you, tell people where people can find you, guys, there's been about 50, 60 watching on YouTube throughout. Please, and if you're watching on repeat, please, before you click off this video, smash the like button. It's free to do so. It really helps all our channels grow, and it's part of, helping the algorithms. Subscribe if you are new. And as I said, before you all go, please do go and subscribe to Andy. I'm going to put the link in again. But Andy, what can people expect to see on Inside Spurs in the next few days and weeks?
I mean, transfer news is always a big thing. And, it's about having conversations like today. Let's think of all the avenues where things could go. Let's think of all the possible scenarios that it could be. Find the glass half full and everything. Every negative has a positive if you're willing to find it. And Kudus, if he's Frank's guy, he's my guy. That's the positive in this, right? But no, it'd be like that. When it comes to actually getting players in, then I do the deep dive into what could they offer Spurs in more detail. We talk a lot really as well about, financial things in terms of revenue made, Champions League money, that sort of thing. We talk a lot, not in a nerdy way, but we talk a good amount about financial fair play, PSR. Obviously, happy PSR first of the year day to yourself. But we talk about that and what impact that has for Spurs and and you know, all that stuff. So yeah, look, it's going to be a busy couple of weeks. Look, for yourself as well, it's going to be a busy, you know, month, 2 months really when you think about it. You know, all the way in September. Daniel Levy likes a late window deal. I'd expect nothing less this summer. I think there'll be 1 or 2, and I think we're going to be busy in the sweltering heat, sweating over Daniel Levy, who sweats over a couple of mil.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, sounds class. Go and check Inside Spurs out. Really appreciate Andy's time today. So yeah, please do go and return the favor and smash the subscribe. Smash the subscribe on Spurs Related. Smash a like on the video if you've watched on the repeat. Let me know your thoughts on the comments on the subject of the number 6, on Mohamed Kudus, on Romero, and everything else we've talked about. Guys, I'll be live again probably tomorrow. If not, I'll have another video. So put the notification bells on when you subscribe as well, because it means you never miss a video or you never miss a live stream. Really appreciate all the comments in the chat today. Really appreciate Andy's time. As he said, had a great chat. And guys, we'll see you very soon on another video or live. As always, remember, come on you Spurs! Do so.